I was diagnosed with MS at 18. That didn't stop me from pursuing my NASCAR dream. Not long after I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2010, I missed a class at my community college due to my illness. The next week, I explained to my teacher what happened. After class, she pulled me aside and told me she thought I should drop her class. I had only missed that one class, but she told me my diagnosis was going to change my life. "I don't think you're going to make it in life, I feel like you should drop out of school," she said. That became my motivation. 6 years later, I'm sitting on my dream job. The diagnosis. At 18, I had just started community college after graduating from high school in Sebring, Florida. One Saturday morning, I woke up and my tongue felt numb. I'd eaten pizza the night before and I assumed I'd burned myself. But by Sunday, I was volunteering at a racetrack and couldn't keep my head up. I was dizzy, and I had a headache along with the numbness. I didn't feel like myself at all. I knew something was wrong, so I went home. On Monday, I couldn't stay awake as I was driving to my 8 a.m. class. The pressure in my head was forcing me to close my eyes. When I got to school, I texted my dad. He picked me up, and we went to the hospital. I had an emergency MRI and went back home to sleep. Later my doctor called and told my parents that I had spots on my brain and needed to go to the children's hospital. When you hear spots on your brain, you immediately think of tumors. Not MS. The next day I felt okay and my headache was gone, but I signed myself into the children's hospital anyway. Within 5 minutes, 6 doctors were in my room. They said that although they were almost sure it was MS, they needed to do more tests to confirm. So I had another MRI and a spinal tap, which checks if you have myelin, the main marker of MS, in your spine. I was in the hospital for 3 days. They put me on steroids which help your brain and nervous system talk to each other or help with the numbness and tingling, and to improve my balance. I couldn't walk in a straight line, I took 3 steps and fell back on the bed. I didn't realize I was that off balance. When my doctor told me I had MS, my dad was immediately angry. My mom started crying. But going into it, I just knew. You have that feeling, and you prepare yourself. I looked at my neurologist and said, "Okay, what do we do?" She told me there was no cure. So I said, "Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on what I can do." She told me I had to take injections for the rest of my life. So I joked, "I guess my fear of needles has to go away?" Coping with the news. On the 2-hour drive home, the car was silent. My mom was looking at the paperwork. To break the silence, she joked, "Well, at least you're not pregnant." There's no history of MS in my family, and I didn't have any symptoms leading up to it. But the previous month, my personal trainer tried to have me do squats on a stability dome ball, and it wasn't happening. My balance was completely off. At the time, my mom said it was just a family thing to have poor balance. But after I was diagnosed, it made more sense. I told my family, teachers, and my friends, one by one. I only cried once, telling a former teacher who's like my second mom. Everyone was saying they wished they could take it away from me. But I never wanted any of them to have it. MS has no cure, and there's nothing I can do about the fact that I have it, so I decided not to dwell on it. I focus instead on everything in front of me, not my diagnosis. Making a NASCAR dream happen. In middle and high school, I followed NASCAR, and for my 18th birthday I went to my first Daytona 500 race with my dad. We had tickets to the infield. I thought it would be so cool to work there. So when I got my bachelor's degree in 2013, I sent my resume to 40 places, though I didn't know anyone in the sport. But I heard back from TriStar Motorsports, a team that competes in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. My dad and I drove from Florida to North Carolina. I had an interview at 10, by 10:30 I had a job, and by noon I had an apartment. That year I traveled 33 weekends. I went to every single race. My job is 90% outside in the hot sun. Sometimes, I work for 18 hours straight. Later on in the day, I get hangry and tired more easily. But I prepare myself in advance. I drink a lot of water during the week so I don't get dehydrated on the weekend, and I sleep in on my off days. MS has never affected me at work the way people assume it would because I manage it and try to take care of myself. In 2014, I worked with NASCAR driver Blake Koch. We had a brother-sister bond. His friend, Trevor Bain, is a NASCAR driver who was diagnosed with MS in 2013. Blake understood what I was going through. If I told him my hand was doing something funky and I couldn't have a press release out that week, he'd completely understand. At end of last year, I started working with JR Motorsports, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s NASCAR team, as a rep for the 88 car and all-star car with 9 drivers throughout the year, big names like Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman, ton of guys I never thought I'd be working with in my 3rd year on the job. I love the traveling. I love the atmosphere of the sport. It's always fun. I'm also producing a podcast on iTunes, Dirty Mo Radio at JR Motorsports. My team is great. I've never kept my MS a secret, and no one has held me back from doing my job. They support me in everything I do. They understand I have off days, and they'll pick up the slack if I have a headache and I need to go home early. But I've never asked for sympathy. I don't need it. I'm fine. I love my job. I get up every morning, and I'm excited to go to work. I get to work with the top names in the sport. I can't imagine my life any different. Living with multiple sclerosis. People see MS in one way. They think, I know someone in a wheelchair. But it affects people differently. Each person has their own MS. While the symptoms can be similar, they can be so different. They're the hardest part to explain, even to my parents. Sometimes my hand or foot or leg atom spots will go numb. It's like it's asleep. When I touch it, I get that tingling feeling on the inside. Except that for most people, their foot or hand would wake up. For me, it doesn't. Sometimes I'm temperature insensitive, can't tell if water is hot or cold. I have to just be patient and let it go, give it time to work itself out. That's the hardest thing to do, because I just want it to get better. In 2012, I spent 5 days being pumped with steroids in the children's hospital because I was seeing double. I spent New Year's Eve there. I was 21 years old. One of my cousins came, and we got takeout and watched the ball drop. I left having to wear an eye patch to even out the number of things I was seeing. That was the only time I've been hospitalized. I've had MS for 6 years now. I've had to give myself close to 1,000 injections in that time. You don't know it's that many until you calculate it. I don't like needles at all. They've left lots of bruises on my arms and legs. But I just deal with it. I would be lying if I said I don't have my moments. It's my right as a human. I FaceTime with my mom every time I do an injection, and she talks me through it. I've trained my dad, my sister, and my roommates, too. It just helps having that extra person. I live the life I want to live, and I don't let MS hold me back. If we're friends or if you're dating me, MS is just a bonus you get. I never hide it. It's my duty. By talking about it, I might help some people. I think MS has made me mature faster. When people meet me, they think I'm way older and have more experience in the sport. I don't party. Even in college, I was focused on getting out of school so I could work. That's gotten me to where I am today. I could be living at home, not knowing what to do with my life. But I do everything on my own and live 600 miles from home. MS helped get me to where I am. Hope for other women with the disease. I'd tell other women who have a progressive disease like MS that every disease is different. You're still an individual. Never be afraid to ask for help or ask your doctor questions because you're afraid of the answer. It will haunt you and you'll stress about it. If you get a bad answer, do what you can to have a good outcome. When you get that diagnosis, your life changes forever. But it is what you want it to be. You have to be that positive change. It's incurable, so focus on what you can do. Always choose to be the better you. I live by one quote: she believed she could, so she did. Multiple sclerosis (MS) is a disease that causes the immune system to attack the central nervous system, damaging nerve connections and interrupting the flow of information between the brain and body. This causes a number of symptoms including blurred vision, tremors, numbness, extreme fatigue, poor coordination, and even paralysis, which can be intermittent and progressively worsen over time. Most people are diagnosed with MS between ages 20 and 50. It's most common in women. While there is no cure for MS, some FDA-approved medications show promise in reducing inflammation, reducing the number of relapses, and prolonging the disease's progression. If you'd like to donate time or money to a charity in support of MS research, check out the National Multiple Sclerosis Society or the Race to Erase MS.